The story of how the DEA accidentally caused a massacre of 300 people in Mexico. In March 2011, gunmen from the Zetas cartel, one of the most violent drug trafficking organizations in the world, swept through Allende, Coahuila, and nearby towns like a flash flood, demolishing homes and businesses and kidnapping and killing dozens, possibly hundreds of men, women, and children. But what was the reason they were tearing through the town, and how is the DEA involved? Several months earlier in the Dallas suburbs, the DEA had launched Operation Too Legit to Quit. After some surprising buzz, police had found $802,000 vacuum-packed and hidden in the gas tank of a pickup. The driver said he worked for a guy he knew only as El Diablo, the devil. After more arrests, DEA agent Richard Martinez and Assistant U.S. Attorney Ernest Gonzalez determined that El Diablo was 30-year-old Jose Vasquez Jr., a Dallas native who'd started selling drugs in high school and was now the leading Zetas cocaine distributor in East Texas, moving truckloads of drugs, guns, and money each month. As they prepared to arrest him, Vasquez slipped across the border to Allende, where he sought protection from members of the cartel's inner circle. But the DEA agents saw an opportunity in his escape. If they could persuade Vasquez to cooperate, it would give them rare access to the senior ranks of the notoriously impenetrable cartel and a chance to capture its leaders, particularly the Trevino brothers, who had killed their way onto the list of the DEA's top targets. Miguel Angel Trevino was known as Zeta 40, Omar as Zeta 42. Vasquez did flee, but he had left the agents plenty of leverage. His wife and mother were still living in Texas. A couple days later, Jose Vasquez El Diablo received a call from his wife where she said their house in Texas was surrounded by cops. He told her to stay calm, break all the phones, and flush him down the toilet, and he will call his lawyers to help them get out on bond. A little later, agent Richard Martinez called El Diablo from there and told him he was going to arrest her and his mother and charge them both. El Diablo told the agents he would walk back towards the US and turn himself in, but to please not arrest and charge his mother or wife. The agents told him the only way they wouldn't do time is if he cooperated with the agents, to which El Diablo replied, and this is his literal response: "I don't want to cooperate, man. There's going to be a lot of murders that come behind this." But the agents pressed on, telling him if he didn't cooperate, his wife and mom would do time with him, to which El Diablo finally caved in and agreed to cooperate and asked the agents what they wanted. What Agent Martinez wanted were the trackable pins or personal identification numbers of the Trevino's BlackBerry phones. Vasquez knew it wouldn't be an easy task, but he knew exactly where to get the numbers from. He knew that to avoid captures, the Zetas had their closest lieutenant in Coahuila provide them new cell phones every 3 or 4 weeks. The lieutenant assigned the job of buying the phones to his right-hand man, Hector Moreno. Under pressure to get the phone's pins, Vasquez turned to Moreno, using a little leverage of his own. It was Moreno's brother, Gilberto, who had been caught driving the truck with $802,000 in the gas tank. Facing 20 years in prison, Moreno's brother, Gilberto, had confessed that he was working for the Zetas and that the cash belonged to the Trevino brothers. Vasquez arranged for his lawyer in Dallas to represent Gilberto and promised Moreno not to let anyone else in the cartel know about Gilberto's incriminating statements. Moreno repaid the favor by agreeing to get Vasquez the numbers, but when the time came, Moreno had second thoughts. Moreno managed to get the numbers of the Zeta 40 and the Zeta 42, but got scared and threw them out into a road because he worried about his family's life. Eventually, El Diablo convinced them to go back to the dirt road and find the numbers, which they did. Moreno initially thought they would use the numbers to wiretap them. He never thought the DEA would send the numbers back to the Mexican police because he knew they would get leaked and a lot of people would die. Moreno was also worried because he was still hanging around Los Zetas at the time. About 3 weeks after Vasquez provided the PIN numbers to the DEA, the cartel's leaders got word that one of their own had betrayed them and launched a frenzy of retribution. Law enforcement sources close to the case said that after Martinez gave the intelligence to his superiors, it was passed to a DEA supervisor in Mexico City. He in turn shared it with the Mexican Federal Police Unit that had been specifically created to conduct operations under the DEA's direction, and to no one's surprise, someone leaked the information to the drug lords. This would cause a 3-day rampage that punctuated a large wave of violence in which Los Zetas criminal group kidnapped, murdered, and later burned the bodies of as many as 300 victims, incinerating the remains into piles of ashes, bits of teeth, and tiny bone fragments. The Zetas at first were acting upon rumors that Jose Luis Garza Jr., affiliated with the cartel, had snitched to U.S. authorities. The Garzas were one of the oldest Allende families. Armed Zetas arrived in Allende in the evening of March 18, 2011, and began by targeting the Garza ranches. Then the Zetas moved north of the region, pillaging, kidnapping, and killing those unfortunate to cross their path. One of the victims of Los Zetas was Gerardo Heath, a 15-year-old high school football player from Piedras Negras. He kept asking his mom if he could go out to play soccer with his friends, but his mom kept saying no, but he insisted. Eventually, his mom ended up letting him go play. He was hanging out with friends when the Zetas took him, 2 friends, and their parents away. They were simply told to get in the truck, and they couldn't say no because the men were all armed. They are presumed dead. Like many of those killed during this rampage, Heath had nothing to do with the drug trade. Emergency management personnel from the region were pressured by the cartel to ignore cries for help. help. The Zetas eventually just decided to start killing anyone, hoping they would find the snitch in between, but they never did. Till this day, it is unconfirmed exactly how many people died, but it's believed that the total is above 300 people. Men, women, and children, it didn't matter. One missing person report said that, "I would like to make it clear that Allende looks like a war zone." The reaction of Los Zetas in Allende was particularly surprising because the Treviños not only did business there, moving tens of millions of dollars in drugs and guns through the area each month, they'd also made it their home. American authorities eventually helped Mexico capture the Treviños, but never acknowledged the devastating cost in Allende. And people suffered mostly in silence, too afraid to talk publicly. Most of the people or Mexico didn't even know about the incident until years later because everyone was scared to talk or make a story out of it. Till this day, no one has been charged for the murders, and the family of the people killed still remain with unanswered questions.